Pittsburgh Steelers fans, it is time once again for another edition of Tales from 2 a.m. But just not any edition of Tales from 2 a.m. Happy 4th of July. Yes, my friends, it is Independence Day, the 245th birthday of the U.S. of A. And as you can see, the jersey I'm wearing today, let me get the right side here. It's the bicentennial jersey from 1976. The Steelers were in that great Super Bowl that year. Well, it's 45 years since then, so here we go. Happy 245. And also, I want to remind you, go out and have a great day today, whether it be barbecue, whether it be fireworks, but remember the great birthday of our great nation. And also remember that this is the eve of another great birthday. Yes, tomorrow is July 5th, which means it is the 71st birthday of one Hugh Anthony Craig III. And if you say, who is Hugh Anthony Craig III, then you don't realize the significance of Huey Lewis's birthday. So that's a big deal to us as well. So hashtag happy 4th of July, says Tom Stroh. Hashtag happy birthday eve to Huey Lewis, says Bad. So with that being said, welcome to Tales from 2 a.m. We are going to have a fun edition today. And today it's called, and now a word from our black and gold sponsors. And we are going to talk about the Steelers and branding and commercials and all kinds of things that just aren't now, but it was way back then. And before I get into anything, we want to talk about the week that was, but most importantly, everybody who is filling in the live chat, they are all familiar names. Even if they aren't familiar, they become familiar. So I appreciate it. George Teston just made me laugh with something that he put up, and I never thought of it this way. But Huey Lewis, the fifth song on his album Sports, his third album, the big one that really made him big, had a song called Bad is Bad. And so bringing up Bad is Bad there, I love it. Thank you so much. Did not do great on the charts. In fact, I think it barely cracked the top 100, but Bad is Bad. So with our Huey Lewis reference, I absolutely love that. So thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you. It's July 4th and you're hanging out with this guy. That's awesome. That makes me feel so good. And that really tells me that not only do you bleed black and gold, but you're a major part of the BTSC family. So thank you. And officially, you're members of Bad Company. So because George wrote that, we might call it today Bad is Bad Company. There you go. So a great week that was in Pittsburgh. It was, well, great week. No, it was full of a lot of talk, but there was things to talk about if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And I do an article on BTSC every Sunday, and it's called A Look Back at the Steelers week that was, but the main title is Have a Bad Week. And it's bads in all capitals. And so I like to do that every week to do a little review, but I like to do it my way. And when I do it my way, it's a little narcissistic. It talks a lot about me, but I try to make it funny. So let's talk about the week that was and how it started out with a lot of talk, just a lot of talk. We had a Pittsburgh insider. Well, he played that inside source card, and he claimed that the Steelers were originally looking at Trey Turner as a replacement for Kevin Dotson. And that's something that we're all very familiar with right now. So Kevin Dotson came out and said, he's saying that I'm out of shape, posted pictures. Dotson seemed to debunk the story, but the problem with this whole thing, it's now on Steelers fans' minds. It's out there. You can't pull it back once it's out there. Now he's going to be labeled in some people's minds as a guy that doesn't take his offseason conditioning seriously. He looks to be in shape. The only thing that bothered me about the last video that he put on social media, he's wearing a Pittsburgh Pirates t-shirt. And as much as I am a huge fan of the Pittsburgh Pirates, I'm like, man, don't let that bad mojo seep into you. That's not good. But you know what? Once again, the story was debunked. Now, in a related story, my son came up to me, and he played the inside source card as well when he told me that a certain female authority figure inside my house was put off by the fact that I didn't get the family takeout from Wingstop. That didn't work. That story was debunked as well. So sometimes you've got to question the people that come out with the inside sources. Let's go to Tuesday. Now, Tuesday was a little less quiet. But the hopes and dreams of fans that wished Paxton Lynch would be re-signed by the team, well, they were completely dashed. And they were dashed when Paxton Lynch, the former Steelers quarterback, I think he wore number 5 here, if I'm not mistaken. Well, he signed a deal with the Saskatchewan Roughriders of the Canadian Football League. And we immediately went to our Slack channel and asked Michael Beck if that was his favorite team, and he got really upset and said, no, it's the BC Lions, British Columbia Lions, the only good Lions football team. And so we opened Pandora's box with that one. But it made me think when Jeff Hartman came out and said, there's a team called the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And I've heard of them for a long time. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was an Ottawa Roughriders at one time, and there were 2 Roughriders in the Canadian Football League. And it made me think, what in the blue hell is a Roughrider? And I'm sure it's something like a Canadian Mountie or something like that. But you've got Mounties, you've got Roughriders. All I know is I don't want to meet those guys in a dark alley, or there's something really crazy going on there. Brian Brown is right. He said, I thought he was a Bronco bust. Yes, he was a first rounder for the Broncos in the same year that we picked Artie Burns, but he ended up on the Steelers in that famed 2019 season when we had 17 quarterbacks after Ben went down in week 2 against the Seattle Seahawks. And at the time, the Seahawks did not at that point have Ben Roethlisberger, and Seattle did not. Well, Seattle didn't have Ben Roethlisberger. Seattle did not have 2 losses. Felicia says, her birthday is in 15 days. We'll have to celebrate that. Hey to all my peeps, John C., Bad, Ryan O'Toole, George. Hey. So that is, that's fantastic. So she says Cancer's month, the astrological sign. And what's really interesting, in 15 days from now is my anniversary of beating cancer. So that is, I'm glad you bring that up. So we share a special day, Felicia. That would be 18 years ago, coming up on the 19th. So we share a special day in a different way. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. So we will definitely have to remember on Tales from 2 a.m. in 2 weeks, Felicia's birthday. So everybody remind me that. Clarence says, happy 4th Steelers Nation. Stephen Carestis says, only Rough Rider I know is DMX. Rest in peace. Brian Brown, Rough Rider is the Canadian word for Bronco bust. So, okay. Well, that's perfect. Because now a former Bronco bust is now a Rough Rider. I got to bring up my man Snowman. Happy 4th of July, Steeler Nation. We love you, Snowman. We love everybody on here as well. As we take a look at the week that was, and so Wednesday comes around. And when Wednesday comes around, this is something interesting that we found on social media. It had come out that the Steelers, well, they were 6th in dead money. Well, they're currently 6th in dead money right now in the entire National Football League. And that's because of guys like Marquise Pouncey, Steven Nelson, David DeCastro, Vance McDonald. Yeah, that's another jersey that I just lost. I just lost my Vance McDonald jersey because now that he's gone too, that really stinks. What am I going to do with my Vance McDonald jersey? Somebody tell me. Well, so once again, Maurkice Pouncey, $6.45 million in dead money this year, 6.17 for Steven Nelson, DeCastro's 5.54, Vance McDonald's 2.72, but they still have a lot of room under the salary cap, maybe around 13.1 million, what we last saw. So it's not killing us, but that salary cap's going to look beautiful next year. I will tell you that. But this makes me shudder as I realize that my wife, Mrs. Bad, is responsible for the most dead money in my household and might have more dead money than Maurkice Pouncey and Steven Nelson, because I think about credit cards, her subscriptions to Netflix, Hulu, Paramount, Peacock, and www.lonelybloggerwife.com. That one doesn't exist, but it might now. And if you do make that up, go ahead, give me some royalties for it, because I just thought of it today. On Thursday, this was the day. This was my favorite quote of the year so far. And it's Devin Bush. And here it is. He put this on social media. If you're a grown man and you got TikTok on your phone, stay TF from around me. Which a lot of people here at BTSC, we loved it. I mean, we loved it. You know, I have no problem with the branding, and we're going to talk about branding a little bit later. And my daughter, she is huge when it talks about, she's 12, she loves TikTok. In fact, I gave her a Chase Claypool jersey just about 15 minutes ago, right before the show started, because I had one that I ordered a long time ago. I just gave it to her. And so Brian Brown just said, when it comes to money, my wife is a serial killer. All right, that's really funny. Yeah, I could tell Mrs. Bad this joke, and she would not think it was funny whatsoever. But so when I gave her the jersey, because she went to camp, she went to Boy Scout camp, BSA camp this week. She is both a Girl Scout and in BSA. And so she went to camp, and Thursday was Jersey Day. And I was so proud of her because she packed her own jersey. But the only jersey she has right now is the stylish yellow and black. It's not like the ones you see. It's really cool. It's a Le'Veon Bell jersey though, because it really fits her personality, because it's the black fades into the gold, and there's some patterns on it. It's really cool, but it is a jersey. But so she comes home and says, I got to get a new jersey, Dad, because, you know, Bell's gone and I don't want to wear him anymore. And so then I sat down and told her the story about the time two hookers robbed. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't tell her that. Gosh. So no, but I said, you know, he's big on TikTok. She's like, I know, I follow him on TikTok. So it's a big deal to somebody. And we're talking about branding in the show a little later on. But it's not a big deal to one Devin Bush. And that's refreshing too, because this guy, to me, is Lambert-esque. He's the kind of guy that it feels like he's like, look, no frills. I just don't want that around me. He's not saying Juju, Chase Claypool, even though he never specifically named those guys. And they tweeted back and forth. Chase did. He added Juju in the tweet, and they were all cool. And something that I noticed, so you got to read between the lines on this. There is something that I completely noticed here. And it was the fact that it said, you know, we're cool, basically, but he hit the media. And he hit how the media is labeling the Steelers as a TikTok team. And I think what he's trying to say here, if I can get in the mind of Devin Bush, I think he's saying, don't associate with me with TikTok, because that's not them. So don't say that I'm a TikToker and the Steelers are TikTokers just because we have a couple of guys that do it. So don't associate me. So that's really what I think it was. So, so I think that was funny. But then Mrs. Bad put out a tweet. And I had flashbacks because I felt like Chase Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster, even though if I wasn't named in this. It said, if you a fat man and eat a ton of oysters, drink a gallon of Red Bull, and have a refillable prescription of Viagra, stay TF from around me. I don't know if that joke's going to land. I laughed when I was typing it. My wife doesn't even have Twitter. All right. I got to bring up, I just saw something here. Speaking of jerseys, and I want to bring up this particular one here. And this gentleman, Chris, says, I'm saving my money for a Presley Harvin jersey. And that's, gosh, a lot of people want that number 6 big press jersey. And, you know, I'm taking a lot of flack right now from Dave Schofield and Jeff Hartman, who wants to call him Big Press. And I'm calling him Elvis. He's a big dude. His name is Presley. Hunka hunka burn and punt. Hashtag Elvis punter for me. Please help me out with that. But the reason I'm bringing up Chris Pugh, Chris is joining the BTSC family of podcast. Chris, Paul, and Joe, they're coming aboard in the fall, well, in preseason on our audio side. As I've told you, we're having an expansion. I do want to welcome Chris aboard. We're having some other shows too, and we're going to announce them. And I'm going to try to get these guys on the show in the next couple of weeks, right before the build up, right before they start. But please welcome Chris aboard. Check this guy out. His show is going to be great. It's going to be Steeler Power Rankings. It's going to come on the audio side on Saturdays. Remember, you guys are, I know you guys are YouTube guys and Facebook girls, and you check us out. But what I need you to do is check out that audio side too. And Chris is going to be a big part of it. So do me a favor, give him a big Bad Company welcome to the show. And hey, thanks for coming in too. So we appreciate that. That's going to be exciting. Big things happening here at BTSC Radio. You're going to love it, and you're going to love those guys as well. So fill up the live chat with welcomes to my friend Chris. Okay, wait. Portna. I want to bring up Portna. I have a revolutionary idea for BTSC. Hire a female. Now, I'm going to be perfectly frank with you. When we put out an article to welcome new podcasters, to have new podcasters aboard, it was put out, this was something that I came up with for us to hire a female, for us to hire voices of diversity, and we did not get submissions. I would gladly hire anybody that can talk Steelers and talk Steelers well. Race, color, creed, gender does not matter. And you know it. You know in the live chat, does not matter. All it matters to me is if you bleed black and gold. If there is somebody, anybody that's a Steelers fan, doesn't matter. As long as you bleed black and gold and you're good, I want to have you on. And I'll give you a show. So, Portna, I would definitely hire a female in a heartbeat. Not because she's a female, but if she's good and she knows Steelers, I would put her on just like that. But we got to get those submissions, and they did not come in. So that's me being perfectly honest. I want to do it. I just need those submissions. And if you know somebody that talks Steelers and is great at it, send them to me. I will give them a shot. You all know the Mark Davison story. Mark Davison got a hold of me. He was just like you in this live chat all the time. And next thing you know, he sends me a demo. He got together with Matty Peverell. They wanted to do a show. And we put them on because their demo was good. If it wasn't, I would have asked them to work on it and give us something that's good. So I would love it. I would love it. Absolutely love it. So thank you for saying that, Portna. I mean, that's probably something that a lot of people were thinking. The only reason that we don't have more diversity on BTSC is we're looking, and we would love to have more, because I have grand plans as the podcast producer. I have grand plans for what we're going to do. We're filling up the afternoon shows. We're filling up the morning shows. We're doing so much here. We have room for more if you are awesome. And I know awesomeness is out there. So with that being said, let's go ahead and look at Friday. Friday, the day before, the Steelers signed Sam Sloman as competition for Chris Boswell. Now, because of that, they had to announce on Friday that they had to make room on the 90-man roster by listing defensive tackle DeMarcus Christmas as waived injured. Christmas will revert to the reserved injured list if he clears waivers. Now, I was thinking about this, and that just reminded me of a song. You know, I like to dabble in singing. I'm bad at it. My kids and my wife said, please stop singing on your podcast. You're not good. But I can't help it. So I want you to channel your inner George Michael and some Wham. Go back to 1984 a little bit and think about this. D Christmas Steelers gave you a spot, but a kicker came their way and took it away. This year, if waivers you clear, maybe they'll treat you better. All right. So there you go. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Tip your waiters and waitresses. So anyways, Eric Brewer asks, how can I submit a demo? You could submit it by getting a hold of me at BTSCBAD or BADavis8889 at gmail.com. We do have pretty much for the new fall season, we have full shows. However, what we're going to do is we're always developing and we're always seeing what we can do. So send some stuff in. We'd love to hear it. Brian Brown's going with the Josh Scobie song. George said that would sound good at 2 a.m. and that I've got a record deal. Michael O'Malley's in the house saying, yo, bad. So, hey, that was the Steelers week that was. So I need you to stick around. Come back after the break. And what we're going to do after the break is we're going to do this. We're going to come back to you. And we're going to talk about Steelers in commercials, Steelers branding, not just now, but throughout the years. And I'm going to tell you my favorite Steeler commercial of all time. You might be surprised. So stick around here on Tales from 2 a.m. Welcome back from Tales from 2 a.m. My name is Brian Anthony Davis. You are Bad Company, and in honor of Huey Lewis's birthday tomorrow, Bad is Bad Company. So thanks for hanging out with us. You know, I love to have you. Thank you. And thank you for being here. And thank you for being our good friends as well. So this is what we're going to do. Remember, happy July 4th. Celebrate Independence Day. And remember, 245th birthday. I keep on doing this. 245th birthday. This is from my Terry Bradshaw jersey, the bicentennial. So, do you realize the party we're gonna have in 5 years from now? I believe that would be called, if I'm not mistaken, and you guys can help me on this. I think 250 might be the sesquicentennial. I think that's what 250 is. So that's something we got to check out. I'll have to see if I'm right on that, if you want to look that up. But happy July 4th, and celebrate our great nation as well. So, Mule Skinner, bad. I gave you a thumbs up, but not for your pipe sing. Your pipe singing ability. Yeah, gosh, I'm tone deaf. So that's not good. Jack Lambert's birthday is this Thursday, says Snowman. Did not know that. That's going to be a celebration. Let's start off with Jack Lambert. Jack Lambert was a no frills guy. He said it like it was. Somebody put on Twitter the actual quote and the video of him talking to Howard Cosell about quarterbacks wearing dresses. And I saw that. I always heard it. I've never seen it until this week. I thought that was really cool. So Jack Lambert, he is in one of my favorite commercials, and Brian Brown brought it up. The Jack Lambert Kennywood commercial with Myron Cope. My gosh, Myron Cope is wearing the rubber ducky. Was that Raging Rapids that they were on? Was that what it was called? That came out in 1985, right after Lambert retired. But one of my all-time favorites. Yeah, that's awesome. So Jack Lambert's birthday is coming up. You know, I've been for the last couple months, and I stopped for a little while, but I put something out there. And what I put out there was, I didn't put it out, but I've been putting it together, a list of all Steeler birthdays, because I want to, like, if you're Chidi Awoma, I want to bring up your birthday on the show. So that's it. Question about, we had a question about from Real to Real about where's Lance. Lance left our platform about a year ago. He does have a podcast on YouTube, The New Standard. That's something not affiliated with BTSC, but it's good stuff. Check it out. Always a good friend of the show. I don't mind giving him a plug as well. Snowman's birthday is Thursday as well. So Snowman has the same birthday as Jack Lambert. Two legends, two absolute legends have the same birthday. Awesome. You know what? I did not mention this the other day because, man, when I'm on the preview, it's so fast paced and it gets so busy. But Reginald Rivers' birthday was the other day. He was 56 years old on that day. So happy birthday to my man Reginald. Another Bad is Bad company here. So that is that's good. Now, yeah, you know, I'm not going to give another blog I'm not going to give them my endorsement. But I'm not going to say anything bad either. Dave Shipley, his is the 15th of July, same as John Stallworth. Man, I'm going to have to, not only am I going to have to start compiling Steelers birthdays, I'm going to have to start compiling Bad Company birthdays. All right, now that you're officially Bad Company, I think that's official. I think that name's good. The Ride or Die Crew, that's an awesome name. That's an awesome crew. They are awesome for Jeff Hartman shows on Let's Ride. And they're great. They're fantastic. I'm sure you guys are Let's Ride or Diers too. I love it. But I'll put Bad Company up against any of them any day. All right? So here we go. Semper Fi 504. Great name, by the way. Fantastic. Happy July 4th. My friend. Good morning, gents, ladies. I'm ready for the Saints versus Steelers Super Bowl. How awesome would that be? I would take a Saints and Steelers Super Bowl any day of the week and twice on Super Bowl Sunday. But that would be awesome. So what we're going to look at here. I got to bring this up. Just Me says no bad meatballs. Oh, gosh. Yeah. I was talking about my grandmother and how she would make meatballs. We can have a vote to it. I like that too. Just Me, another one of my favorites here. This is hilarious too. I have a confession. I just realized Jeff Hartman and Tony Duffy are two different people. Sorry if I butchered names. Yes. So Just because they're bald. They kind of look similar in a way. Yeah, they kind of do. But yeah, Jeff and Tony are completely different people. They're both two of my favorite people on this earth. I do shows with both of them. I love all my BTSC mates here. They're absolutely fantastic. I love working with Dave and Jeff and Tony and all the shows that I do here. I have the most hair out of everybody. I will tell you that. I'm not showing it off today. I'm just showing the little tuft, I guess. But anyways, I want to bring up Semper Fi again because this is first time I've seen Semper Fi in here. Thanks for the name. Much love. Steelers took my heart with a famous Tasmanian devil. My hometown, New Orleans. My heart's with my home team too. But man, much respect for the Steelers. I love it. I don't think anybody here really dislikes the Saints. In fact, I know if I could speak for Felicia, I think you're down near. You're in Louisiana, aren't you, Felicia? And I know Melvin's wife is a Saints fan and he's a Steelers fan, and they talk about that as well. So we have some love for the Saints here in Steelers Nation. So Snowman just said Jeff and Tony look like twins. I love it. Gosh. Hey, you've never seen them in the same room together, so who knows? And you don't really see them. You really don't see them on shows together either. So maybe we need to look into that. And you've never seen them at the Beehive together. That's true too. Brian Brown says, no, the Saints are okay unless they're playing the Steelers. So that leads me to a complete different tangent. Now that Brian Brown brings that up. If there's another team in the NFL, and most likely it's going to be an NFC team, but do you have a second favorite team to the Steelers? You know, it's okay. I live in Maryland, and I was never a fan of the Washington football team, but I cheer for them. I cheer for them because they're not the Ravens. And I cheer for them because I'd like to see them overcome that jackwagon of an owner and be something good. But I don't know if they're my official second favorite team. I don't know if I have one. I will say this. When I was 9 and 10, I had an affair with the San Francisco 49ers and the Denver Broncos. But I was a kid, and my dad, who you met a couple weeks ago, and he let me go with it. But I always rooted for the Steelers. I got a John Elway jersey for my 14th birthday. But when the Steelers played the Broncos that year in week 2 on Monday Night Football, I rooted so hard against the Broncos. I wanted a Gary Kubiak jersey because I loved the backup quarterback. And he ended up winning a Super Bowl with that team. So that's the thing. Who else do you like? Some people say, nope, ride or die with the Steelers. I appreciate that. But there's teams in the NFC that I don't really have a problem with. I used to kind of like the Seahawks until that whole Super Bowl 40 thing happened. I never had a problem with the Packers until that whole Super Bowl 45 thing happened. I still don't really have a problem with the Packers. I don't have a problem with the Saints. I really don't. I don't mind them. There's some teams there's teams in the NFC that I abhor. Of course, Dallas. I hate the New York Giants. In fact, I think I hate the New York Giants more than I hate the Philadelphia Eagles, and I detest the Philadelphia Eagles. I officially don't have a second team, but there's teams that I would probably root for in the Super Bowl if the Steelers weren't in it. Like in 2008, man, it was hard. Oh gosh, it was so hard to root against the Arizona Cardinals that year. It really was. They had some former Steelers, but they also had Larry Fitzgerald and they had Kurt Warner. And how would you root against those guys? You really couldn't. Do I like the 49ers? No, I can't stand them. Like I said, the entire NFC West, the entire NFC East, except for the Washington football team, just because they're local and I don't have a problem with them. Yeah. Tampa, I kind of like Tampa when they were wearing the creamsicles, and then that whole junk in 2000, 2001, 2002 came around with Warren Sapp running through and starting fights. Steelers, trust me, I'm not leaving the Steelers, trust me. But it's okay to say, hey, they're okay too. It's the same thing with competition. If there's blogging competition out there that I like, if there's other podcasts out there that I like, I mentioned Lance. If I like him, I'm going to cheer for him. So that's that. But Detroit Lions, I'd love to see them be good just because they're so bad. In fact, the Steelers are probably responsible for that because Bobby Lane cursed the team when he traded him to the Steelers. So Brian Brown says, I have a problem with the Packers. It's called beating the Steelers in the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's my problem with them. I had no problem pulling against the Cardinals. No, that day, no. Don't get me wrong. The Cardinals were the enemy that day because it was the Super Bowl. And I would have forever hated them. But, I have found them a likable team. Port Naquenba, he's sending me a Javon Hargrave Eagles jersey. I would wear that. I would wear a Javon Hargrave Eagles jersey. That'd be no problem. You know what else I would wear? This is a team that I can't stand, but if somebody sent me a Bud Dupree Titans jersey, I'd put it on. I'd wear it. I have no problem with that. I won't wear a Villanueva jersey, and I still love Big Al, but I won't wear one. And the reason I won't wear one is because he's a Ratbird now. And my family tries to keep the color purple away from me. So, Brian Brown, how can't you love Kurt Warner? I really do. Kyle Younger, I've rooted for the Washington football team because of my grandfather. He was from DC and loved the team. Kyle, I'm telling you, I live here. I live in Maryland. I've been to the stadium. I was there to see the Steelers play them in preseason, but kind of don't have a problem with them right now. I used to in the past, but now I kind of think they have their own owner to overcome, and I'm really rooting for them. I think they're a mess. I love their coach. Love Ron Rivera. DC was not the place for Dwayne Haskins. Maybe Dwayne Haskins can be something here. So that's great. Semperfi asked if I've ever had crawfish etouffee. If not, you got to try it. I would be willing to try it. I am a very picky eater, much to my wife's chagrin. Mrs. Bad hates that I'm a picky eater, but I would give it a shot. I mean, I do love seafood. Of course, I live in Maryland, so lots of crab. I love the shrimp. I went to a New Orleans restaurant in St. Augustine. They had like a New Orleans style restaurant there, and I had some stuff that was really good. So I would be willing to try that. Felicia says this, and I think a lot of people agree with this, and I love it. Bad, I honestly can't have more than one team because the Steelers play the games too close for comfort. My stress levels can't take it. For me, it's kind of like this. In baseball, I always liked the Cleveland Indians. At one point, I liked the California Angels. I liked some American League teams. Never liked the National League team. Too close for comfort. But there's some. It's always black and gold first. But Snowman says, I will root for a team when the Steelers are out of the playoffs, but I bleed black and gold. And that's okay. I mean, you have to have a rooting interest. Man, as much as I hate the Philadelphia Eagles, I would have worn green that day, and I rooted so hard for that team in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, it wasn't funny. And I don't like the San Francisco 49ers, but when they played the Ravens in the Super Bowl, I rooted for them. Can't stand the New York Giants, but I was a Giants fan that day when they played the Ravens. Both the Giants and 49ers, well, they let me down. Brian Brown says this, I don't like many players in the NFL unless they played for the Steelers and left under honorable circumstances. That's fine. Bud Dupree, he left under honorable circumstances. I really don't have a problem with that. I think I will say this, Big Al, I'm going to root for him. He left under honorable circumstances. I mean, now he made a comment about the wide receivers in the room, and hey, Devin Bush just basically did too. I'll root for Big Al. I just won't wear his jersey now because I'll keep his Steelers jersey. That's fine. And I might even wear my Steelers Big Al jersey when they play the Ravens. Won't have a problem with that. But, it's just, I'm always going to love that guy. There's not many people that leave the team that I've got a problem with. In fact, I don't have much of a problem with AB. Ronald Ocean, which is probably one of the funniest names ever, his alter ego. But there was a part of me that when he caught that pass in the Super Bowl for the Buccaneers, I was like, just for a second. I'm like, you know what? Then I clap my hands. I'm like, all right, there you go. I was rooting against the Chiefs that day too, so that was fine. Ryan O'Toole warns against living in the old line state. He says, don't live in Maryland. You will get crabs. The crabs here are wonderful. Oh, my gosh. Now I got to go get crabs. I love this. Doe Lachlan. Anyone who plays the Cowboys, my team. There's still a lot of Cowboys. I have a hard time rooting for the Cowboys as well. But let's talk about branding. Do you realize in the 1970s, Mike Krusek had a commercial with Terry Bradshaw? Yeah, he did. They had like a razor commercial together. This is how big the Steelers were in the 70s. In the 70s, there was a Uniroyal tire. I believe it was Uniroyal, called the Steeler tire. They sold these steel belt radio tires that the players were in the commercial. Joe Green, Jack Lambert, they were in this commercial. And there was a Steeler radio tire, which I thought was amazing. Talk about branding. The team had branding. The ultimate lack of branding, though, was America's team. We just mentioned the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm going to say this every single time. Every single time. The Sables of the NFL Network, well, they wasn't the NFL Network, but it was NFL Films. It became NFL Network. And Ed and Steve Sable, father and son, both in the Hall of Fame, they went to the Steelers and wanted to name them America's team first. Father and son, Art Rooney and Dan Rooney, said, absolutely not. We're Pittsburgh's team. We're not America's team. The Steelers could have been America's team. They don't need to be. They don't need to be at all. Cowboys want to call themselves America's team. That was a name that they took, but they took sloppy seconds. They took sloppy seconds to the Steelers with America's team. And I'll say that. So that's the ultimate lack of branding. That is more branding than anything. So I love it. I love that the Pittsburgh Steelers were the first choice. And I will let every Cowboys fan know that every single time. L.C. Greenwood was one of my favorite Steelers. I had a chance to meet him. And I was 8 years old when I met him, and he was larger than life. It was the first Steeler that I ever met, and it was the greatest thing. I still have his autograph from that day, and I have my LC Greenwood jersey. In fact, I would have grabbed that one because it has this patch on it too, but I guess I saw this one first, and so he had some great commercials. He was in those great light beer from Miller commercials that were really funny. They had like Rodney Dangerfield, and they had all these former players, and they were really funny. And he had an ode to quarterbacks, like a poem. If you check out old Steelers commercials on YouTube, they're great. There's some really good ones. Chuck Noll was never in a commercial, which was great because that's who Chuck Noll was. Heck, Bill Belichick's been in commercials. Chuck Noll never was. And he was like, he would have never accepted one. Bill Cowher was not in a lot of commercials. He was rarely in a commercial because he wanted it to be about the Steelers. What's your favorite Steeler commercial? I'd love to know that. So here's a question for you as well. How many times do you remember hearing about the Steelers in pop culture? Growing up in the 70s and early 80s, every time I heard the Steelers on TV, I would go nuts. I was just watching an episode of The Love Boat a month ago, and twice in that show's run did they mention the Steelers. One kid was trying to they were on a cruise. He was trying to get his parents back together because their parents were getting divorced, and both parents were on the cruise. And spoiler alert, they got back together, but he all these guys going up to his mom, and he told Isaac too to help get these guys away from his mom, and told him that his dad was an all-pro linebacker for the Steelers. That was great. I remember we've got Dancing with the Stars these days, and we've had two Steelers, Hines Ward and Antonio Brown, on Dancing with the Stars. There's a 1980-81 episode of the show Taxi with the great Judd Hirsch, by the way, the greatest Judd Hirsch. He's awesome. He had somebody like a network executive for ABC in his taxi cab, and they started using him to start picking their new fall lineup. And so they had all these things on the board of shows that they wanted to do. And he goes, "Hey, this is a great show. We'll call it Dancing with the Pittsburgh Steelers." That was so long ago. And I remember I only saw that once. Now I got to find that episode. But that's great. That's so funny. The Steelers would come up in pop culture a lot back then. And they come back now because the Steelers are that known team. So when you talk about branding, you got to think that the Steelers were one of the first real brands in the NFL. So don't have a problem when Juju and Chase, they are branding themselves in other ways. I love it, but just so it doesn't take away from anything going on in the field. It did for a game or two. Then it stopped. Mike Tomlin put a stop to it. Look, be on TikTok all you want. Devin Bush does not want to be associated with it. That's fine. He's not saying I can't stand these guys. He's saying that that's just not me and don't group me in. You could say a lot of things about Juju. The pink hair now. He fired his agent, and now he has bright pink hair. I wonder if he has the same agent as Strawberry Shortcake, because she had that bright pink hair. I don't know if it smells like strawberries. My sister would have those Strawberry Shortcake dolls and all the other. I would just, like they were markers. I'd be like, I loved it. The Steelers were a brand in the 70s. They're a brand now. The players had their own brands. And the ultimate one, Snowman brought him up, Joe Green. Joe Green had a brand. You know, Joe Green hated being called Mean Joe. He hated it. He didn't think he was mean. On the field he was, but he didn't want to be known as Mean Joe Green. But his His commercial was the very best. Do you realize in 1980, the Steelers played the Atlanta Falcons on a game in late October, early November? And I remember this because I couldn't wait for the game, and I couldn't wait for after the game because they had a TV movie, a Sunday night movie of the week from NBC called The Coca-Cola Kid. Joe Green and the Coca-Cola Kid. I got to look for that on YouTube. And it was about after the aftermath of the commercial and the kid sneaking on the Steelers plane. And I think Joe Green was in it. They were brands back then. The jersey I'm wearing today is number 12, Terry Bradshaw. Tony and I did a retro show the other day. And they were the announcers. It was Kurt Gowdy and another great one, and it escapes me right now. But what it was, they're talking about how weird it was to look at Terry Bradshaw, who was growing a mustache. Terry Bradshaw had a mustache in this game against the Washington Redskins on November 4th of 1979. It was this big mustache that he was growing. It was blonde, so it was hard to see, but I paused it and I'm looking at it just the other day because we did the retro show on it. And you can check that out on our audio-only platform. But, so this mustache is going wild. And they're talking, well, it's a part of his new career because he's releasing his next country music album. And he's going to be in a Burt Reynolds movie. I don't know whether it's Smokey and the Bandit 2 or it was something that he was in a Burt Reynolds movie. He had a TV show with Jerry Reed. You know, if you're hot, you're hot. If you're not, you're not. That guy. That guy was great too. He just passed away about a year ago. Legendary in country music. And I don't know a lot of country music, but Terry Bradshaw had country music albums. He was branching out into other things. And guess what? His brand made him huge because now he's in movies. Now he's one of the faces of the NFL because of his work on Fox. So here you go. If you have any problem with brands now, they were doing them back in the 70s and the 80s. But the thing is, because of social media, everything is just engorged. It is just it is so much more because of social media. And it makes it Cannonball Run. Daredevil, thank you. Was that Cannonball Run 2 or Burt Reynolds was a legend and he was a Steelers fan, probably because of the great branding. He went to Florida State. I know that he played football there. And not a lot of people know this, but he played a former Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback twice. Once in the show Evening Shade. So I'm talking about branding and how the legacy. Evening Shade came around in 1989, 1990. Guess what? He was an ex-Steelers quarterback. His first name was Wood. I can't remember his last name on that show. Evening Shade was a really good show. We talked about Taxi, the woman from Taxi, and gosh, how did I just forget her name? She played his wife, Mary Lou Henner. There you go, Mary Lou Henner. She was on that show too, and that was a really good show. But he was an ex-Steeler. He also played an ex-Steeler in The Longest Yard because he was an incarcerated quarterback. And then later on, Adam Sandler played an ex-Steeler quarterback by the same name as Burt Reynolds, Paul Crewe, for the Mean Machine in the remake of The Longest Yard. McEldew says Hines is my favorite player. His battles with Ed Reed were epic. They were. Jerry Reed was the guy who played Red Bayou in The Waterboy. And The Waterboy, we just mentioned Adam Sandler. And Bill Cowher was in that movie, playing Bill Cowher. Snowman says Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra. Yeah, they Myron Cope and Franco brought him into when the Steelers were in Palm Springs for a practice, getting ready to play the Los Angeles Rams, brought him in. And Chuck Noll was so mad because they brought Frank Sinatra to the practice, and the people from Franco's Italian army were there. And it was this big spectacle. And like, he's like, all right, can we finally get back to football now? Can we get back to practice? Garth Brooks is a Steeler fan. Mike Manganiello. He is, of course, somebody's mentioning Al Bundy. Of course, we know that he was there in 1969. Ed O'Neill, one of the final cuts of the Steelers. He mentions in Modern Family of being a Steelers fan, and he had a little feud with Terry Bradshaw in the show, and Terry Bradshaw was on the show. Hank Williams is a Steelers fan. There's a lot of them. Christina Aguilera, she messed up the national anthem before the Steelers Super Bowl, but she's a Steelers fan. Billy Gardell says Ryan O'Toole. That's a big one. There's so many out there. Oh, Bret Michaels from Mechanicsburg. I live not too far from where Bret Michaels grew up. He's a Lambert lunatic. He wears that 58 jersey. He loves the Steelers. There are so many great Steeler fans. Of course, Snoop, Wiz Khalifa, big Steeler fan. The late Mac Miller, Steeler fan. Semper Fi says Snoop. That's true, but the thing about Snoop is he has like 3 or 4 teams that he roots for. Ryan, you live in Mechanicsburg. I'm in Maryland. I'm not that far from you. I used to work in Mechanicsburg. I used to have territory in Mechanicsburg. Wow, pretty close. Did not know that. Happy July 4th, everybody. It was a fun day. It was fun talking about the week that was. It was fun talking about branding. And like I said, the Steelers had a brand back then. It just wasn't elevated to 100 like it is now. And that's just the way that we are in 2021 and beyond. Stephen Carestas mentions Paul Rudd and Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton is a genuine Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Paul Rudd is half of one because he's a Steelers fan, but he's also a Chiefs fan too because he's from the Kansas City area. I'm a big Paul Rudd fan though, so I don't have a problem with that. Gosh, that made me think of Seth Meyers. Seth Meyers is he grew up in like New England territory. He grew up in Boston. He's a Red Sox fan, but he's a huge Steelers fan. I think that guy's actually hilarious. A lot of people don't love him. I really do. So with that being said, thanks so much. I know somebody's going to flash another one, and I'm going to say, oh, that one too. But I'm going to get on out of here. I'm going to let me try that again. I'm going to enjoy my 4th with my family. I hope you enjoy your 4th of July today. You got to do 3 things for me. Be safe, especially here on 4th of July. Be true to yourself. Always be you. That's why we love you. You're you. I'm me. That's why we get together, right? That's why we get each other. And always be behind the steel curtain. Thank you so much, my friends. I love you, Bad Company, if that's our name. And I'll talk to you next time. I don't know what time it is where you are, but on Sundays, it's always 2 a.m.